Breathwork has its origins, I suppose, in the beginnings of breath first being studied by the human being. There are forms of yoga that are thousands of years old, and I see breathwork as an offshoot of a form of yoga. It's one way of looking at it. The modern breathwork called rebirthing was started in the 1970s in California, pioneered by Leonard Orr and other people who rediscovered what was known all along, that the power of life comes through the agency of breath. And so the power of healing, the power of releasing, the power of increasing one's life force lies within the study of one's breath. Our current updated version of breath study is what's known as breathwork. And rebirthing is a branch of, or an aspect of, modern day breathwork. I began the study of this in the 1970s, not long after the movement began in California, because I was an avid student of the use of breath through bioenergetics, and my Tai Chi teacher at that time had contact with Leonard Orr and was one of the original certified rebirthers. He recommended that those who really wanted to deepen their study of breath and body mastery investigate it, and indeed I did. What I discovered in it was a very powerful tool for going deeper than almost any other tool that I had encountered to that time. Since this time, it has spread in its usage and popularity throughout the world, and has been combined with many other healing techniques and indeed many other forms of breathwork. Rebirthing has been adapted to many forms of body work, healing of numerous sorts, and it always increases their power because it goes to the core or the source of aliveness. In the 70s, breathwork started out in a watery medium. People were immersed in hot tubs, and it very quickly activated deep and primal feelings that go back to our own birth, time in utero, delivery, and that's how it got its name. People would spontaneously remember their birth, and in the process of breathing, actually reenact or recreate the events of their birth. As astounding as this seems, it has been repeated over and over. However, the essence of rebirthing, I do not believe, is having to remember one's own birth. The essence of rebirthing is the ability to release whatever holding patterns have crept into our daily repertoire, whether they come from birth or from later on in one's life. I do not have to necessarily touch into or remember any particular event as much as I have to have the faith and the willingness to release the fear that has held me from experiencing my full resourcefulness as a human being. This full resourcefulness comes through the agency of being able to breathe fully and freely and to think clearly and creatively. Since the early days of breathwork, when the watery medium was used, it has been discovered that the water is not a necessary component. The water can augment one's feelings of being in utero and the sensations that were associated with birth, but it is the breath and the intention which are the core elements. That I am able to access full and free breathing with the intention of healing, clearing, and being at one with my spirit is the core of rebirthing. So this began to be developed as an art form outside of the watery medium. The watery medium tended to overstimulate people in the beginning, and often they would go into very severe holding patterns in their body called tetany. It was discovered that by having people breathe and learn how to release on dry land and gain more expertise in that skill, that they could then take it into the watery medium and go further and deeper without going into severe holding patterns. The core philosophy of rebirthing is that of creative thought, which means I am one with the Creator and I am responsible for my aliveness. So it is the same philosophy that we have adopted in the School of Spiritual Psychology, and breathwork is one of the most incisive techniques that I know of to put that philosophy into one's life. As I'm in a breathing session, if I am reliving symptoms or old thinking patterns that are negative or limiting, it does not serve me to go into blame or victimization. What I discover is that tends to increase the holding and fix in the pain. What releases is coming back to full responsibility, not just on an intellectual level, but on an organic body level. When I truly feel safe and release intense muscular holding, I experience my entire life differently. It's not something I have to convince anyone of. I am now in a state of greater ease and more resourcefulness because most of my energy is not going into defensiveness, defensive holding, consciously or subconsciously. In this process of learning how to breathe fully and freely, I will encounter whatever within me, mind or body, has objections to that experience of full aliveness.